Performing an authorship analysis allows us to pick out and study the elements of a director's films that make them so continuously successful. In this light, we don't only get a feel for who the director is and why he chose to make the decisions that he did, but we are given worthwhile lessons about the magics of cinema and what is capable of creating a lasting impact on a vast and diverse audience. Christopher Nolan is one of those directors who has made a name for himself over the course of his award-winning films through repeatedly showcasing his ability to create an experience for viewers that is so immersive they will find themselves dreaming with their eyes open. While there are several filmic qualities that are required to achieve this overall effect, there is one that is absolutely crucial in supporting the narrative progression and to enhance the emotional experience for the audience: the music. And here, I'm not talking about the soundtracks that audience members might be familiar with that passively loom in the background of a storyline, but scores that are tailored specifically for what is happening on screen in a very, very intentional way. While most people might believe dialogue to be the most important part of the end product, it has been said that the most memorable, emotional, and engaging films in cinematic history have proven that understanding and utilizing the power of a film score inherently elevates the film. Essentially, it can be the missing component in creating a convincing atmosphere that draws the audience in. Nolan has even expressed that, "What I've done with the bigger film scores over the years is figure out a way to build the machine and then use the mechanism of the music to get the heart out of it, to get the emotions into that form." He is not only successful or right about the scores pulling on the emotions of the audience, but they also work hand in hand with some of Nolan's classic identifiable themes of his authorship: time, memory, and trickery of the mind. Through an analysis of his musical patterns that emerge across the board in his works, we are able to understand why he is so successful in driving his plots, themes, and character developments forward, as well as producing an effect of transportation into another world for the audience. One way that his music is so successful in defining his authorship is done through the protagonist's perspective and the way in which it acts as a lens for the audience to experience the environment, as the protagonist does. In multiple of his works, there is always a man who grapples and struggles with identity and the passage of time, and alongside this we see similar musical patterns emerge as well. At points of high tension, the music picks up and we hear knocking that sounds both like the ticking of a clock and a heartbeat.
Where's the bloody Air Force?
This not only synthesizes the character's inner tension, stress, or feelings of unease, but once again reflects the overarching theme of time passing, one of Nolan's identifiable stamps we see across his major films.
We need the recorder.
For example, in Interstellar as well as Inception, there are several moments of high intensity or where we are able to feel the adrenaline of the protagonist through the accompanying music. These sounds are usually constructed through a blending of heavy brass, piano, or strings, although sounding synthetic at times. Hans Zimmer, the composer of both of these feature films, worked side by side with Nolan to ensure that the music he would curate for him elevated the urgency and inner turmoil of the protagonists. Similarly, in The Prestige, David Julian, the previous composer of Nolan's works before Zimmer, was just as successful in bringing Nolan's visions to life, highlighting the inner lives of his characters and, using music, he tells a story that the audience cannot necessarily explicitly see with their eyes. In this filmic work of Nolan, there is an obvious understanding that characters are secretive and purposely withhold information from each other. In other words, the film progresses in atmospheres that amplify mutual mistrust with the accompaniment of overlapping Gothic notes, reinforcing the somber and melancholic moods of the characters. Julian, who set the foundations for Zimmer, demonstrated just how music can accentuate the emotions and feelings of the characters without even having dialogue to prove so. Nolan has even expressed himself that, "I don't agree with the idea that you can only achieve clarity through dialogue. Clarity of story, clarity of emotions, I try to achieve in a very layered way using all different things at my disposal, picture and sound." Another overarching and repetitive notion of sound that works with the character thoughts and development is through the lighter, sparkling notes of a piano that usually represent a character lost in nostalgic memories or thoughts about women who live in the dreams and desires of the male protagonists. Regardless of the shift in composers over the years, it becomes clear how active Nolan was in deriving the desired outcome from the scores, continuously carving out the path of his identity and underpinning each of his leading characters with musical narratives, feelings, and perspectives. Continuing off of the character development that is achieved through tailored musical accompaniment, Nolan and Zimmer work hand in hand to bring together the ultimate theme of many of his films, time and memory. Just as we see in Interstellar, Zimmer synthesizes the sound of the ticking pocket watch and injects it throughout the score of Dunkirk, a more recent cinematic masterpiece of his. Nolan's aim was to have as little dialogue as possible, so he really drove the plot and themes forward using his cinematography and music. The Dunkirk score heightens the intensity as the Allied forces are essentially racing against the clock to try and get off the beaches of Dunkirk and escape the German threats. Here, the sound becomes the driving force of the storytelling, allowing viewers to take in everything they're experiencing on screen rather than merely focusing on what the characters are saying. Dunkirk, conveying essences of time and memory functioning on the score Zimmer created with Nolan, amplifies a desperate intensity attempting to bring back the memory of just how close the world was to an Axis occupation of the United Kingdom. With the inclusion of rapid ticking, loud soundtracks that perfectly accompany the visuals, this film was successful in replicating an experience on screen that otherwise would be difficult to express, as experiences of high stress such as war are hard to put into words and have a tendency to distort memory and perceptions of time to begin with. In this specific example, Zimmer uses arrangements of manipulated string and brass instruments to play to the intensity of approaching fighter jets that scream in the air or ship engines that rock side to side through rough waves. It is through the intensity of the shepherd tone, a thematic musicality that Zimmer employs, that a sense of escalating danger is evoked through the tone that seems to grow more intense, raising our adrenaline as we wait for it to break. The overall effect is one that leaves the audience on the edge of their seats, with their hearts in their throats and their stomach in knots. When words fail, especially for characters who are at midst of war, violent, or traumatic experiences, the music swoops in to save the day, elevating the narration and here specifically reinforcing the limited time they have to save themselves and the rest of the world. In short, the score, masterfully pieced together like a puzzle, is what is responsible for how the audience unlocks memories of a major historical event and views it in a perspective they could have never experienced otherwise. Another way in which Nolan leaves a lasting impact through his films is the way in which he creates an emotional experience for audience members, essentially transporting them out of reality and into another realm. It is clear that music elicits emotions. There is no denying that fact. In this light, composers, and most certainly Zimmer, have been able to heighten the emotions felt during a viewing to create a specific mood and tone that viewers take away.
You're infecting my mind.
I was trying to save you.
You betrayed me. But you can make amends.
The mood of the scene, which is significantly created through the use of music, conveys how the characters within the film's world are feeling, as we have seen previously, and the tone is how the audience should feel about the scene given our unique and specific perspective as a spectator into his world.
It's the only way I can still dream.
Sometimes it can truly be the score that is the missing factor in the making of a filmic world that draws the viewers in.
My dreams were still
In Inception,
together.
Nolan was clearly illustrating a fantastical world of dreams in which he realized that he would have to offer the audience a more emotional narrative, something that represents the emotional world of somebody's mind. Therefore, the use of score and music in this film was crucial to guide the audience through a confusing and complex narrative dream world, orienting them not only emotionally but geographically and temporally as well. Zimmer follows suit in Interstellar as well, constructing a score that would complement the expansive universe and science that is hard to grapple with. With a combination of ticking clocks, melancholy chords, and urgent church organs, Zimmer pulls the audience into the mysterious and unknown atmosphere that is outer space, immersing us right into the world of the characters, which otherwise would not be possible without the score. Although The Prestige featured David Julian, he set the bar high for Zimmer and worked with Nolan to, once again, pull the audience into an experience they could feel with all of their senses. The ever-prevailing feeling of fear remains consistent throughout the film, and with the inclusion of frantic whistling sounds and slow, antsy upward sounds, they were able to achieve just this. Fantastic visuals aside, the score itself can act as a response trigger for an audience, and that is utterly true in the case of Christopher Nolan's work. I know in my personal experience how the musical score can be a point of response itself. Sometimes simply listening to a score's soundtrack on my own time can bring me back to the exact atmospheres or events that occurred on screen at a specific moment. In other words, I have felt transported back into a specific moment in the film where I can relive the sequences and feelings that accompanied those events and where I become lost in the fantastical world that was created by Nolan. Overall, Christopher Nolan's films display that his musical form and patterns help him express a bit of himself in the only way that he can express it. Consistently, his works prove music to be a powerful tool in the making of meaning and audience interpretation. Through emotional, temporal, and atmospheric support, the scores he co-created with Zimmer and Julian evoke much of Nolan's desired reaction, contributing to his work's successes time and time again, and act as the driving force of his narratives, themes, and characters, leaving audience members in a trance to be reflected upon for hours to follow. In short, when words fail, music speaks.